Hello community, hello amigos, hello everyone. How are you doing? I hope everyone is doing well. So, as part of the Global Azure Virtual, I assume that you are already familiar with this great community initiative that is running, and as well as part of the Cloud Launch and Learn, we have this session running today, and where I come today to just talk to you about cloud native, which is a really hot topic nowadays, and also how you can use DAPR to just build your cloud native applications. Before we start, I would like to invite you to just share in the comments where you are connecting from, and also I would like to just give you a big thank you for dedicating the time to be here with us and ready to join this session and learn more about Cloud Native. For now, as you can see, we don't have the usual moderators that we used to have. Today, I'm moderating and delivering the session at the same time. We are just trying to, of course, save some time to the team, so the team, we have some people in the team, the Cloud Launch and Run team, delivering talks to the Global Azure Virtual as well, including Dwayne today delivering 5 sessions, and also you can also have a look to the website globalazure.net, if I'm not wrong, and you will see the sessions there. Even Erkan is delivering sessions as well. I'm going to actually share with you quickly. So you just access by globalazure.net, and you should be able to just go to the sessions and just filter by topic, level, or even language, and also by community. And as you can see, we have here a few sessions from the Cloud Launch and Learn team, which is the session of today and the 2 sessions tomorrow, and the next day delivered by Erkan, okay? And also Dwayne is delivering some sessions today as well. So I'm just going to start. If you are happy to, let me know where you are connecting from, and once again, a big thank you for you to join today. So I'm going to start by just showing you a few slides today, and then we are going to move forward to a demo. This session today is heavy on demos, okay? Because I definitely want to share some details with you and show how easy can be for you to get started with DAPR and try DAPR by yourself in using your local environments, okay? So, of course, as I mentioned, today it's all about just explaining to you how you can get started using DAPR to just build your cloud native applications. So in this session, I will try to make it as smooth as possible and not really focus on developments and code, besides the fact that, of course, DAPR is a developer-focused programming model, okay? But my intention is more to create awareness and give you some understanding on how this can be useful to you and your teams, of course, independently if you are a developer looking for a new tool to develop and build your apps, or an architect looking for the best technologies to use while designing and implementing cloud solutions, or even an IT ops to understand how to manage and maintain apps built using DAPR, okay? I see here some people sharing the location. I hope I pronounce your name correctly, but welcome and thank you so much, Sotiris from Greece. Sotiris is one of the lads that are part of the Cloud Launch and Run team. So just continuing this session. So just a quick introduction. I will not take too much of your time about myself. So I'm a cloud architect based in Ireland. Most of my experience is related to software development, and of course, nowadays it's more about architecting solutions in the cloud. Most of my experience is heavy on using Microsoft Stack, while of course leveraging open source technologies. And whenever I have free time, I spend some time producing courses to Plural sites, doing some public speaking to the community, and also try to contribute as much as possible to the community as well, via the Cloud Dungeon Learn or any other community groups that I have opportunity to. And of course, in the spare time, I try to do some study for some certifications to just refresh my knowledge, learn some new skills in the cloud, and pretty much just create a way to also have different ways to work, because, for example, by learning to those certifications, I was able to, at some point, deliver some online training, especially because I got the Microsoft Certified Trainer as well. And that's all about learning, creating ways for you to work, not necessarily only dependent on your full-time job, but you can create some other ways to generate income and work on by yourself. Okay, so let's get started. So as you know, nowadays more and more IT pros are asked to design and create microservice-based architectures and applications, so they can break and move out from those big monolithic architectures into something more distributed microservice-based architectures, composed, of course, from small pieces, all connected, performing specific tasks and responsibilities. So those enabling them to implement flexible, efficient, and of course resilient and scalable applications. Okay, and most importantly, enabling them to focus on building those applications and abstracting them from the infrastructure hosting those applications. Okay, and as you may know, a lot of developers as well always like to have some freedom to pick the language or framework that fits their needs. Okay, so it's all about as well to give them some freedom. Okay, so you are not stick to environments where you run your applications, and you are not stick to or limited to the language that you can use or the frameworks that you can use. So, but sometimes, of course, depending on the requirements we have for our applications, there may be some challenge that we may face while considering microservice development, including, of course, limited tools and runtimes to build our applications, also limited language supports and feature sets, or even runtimes that target specific infrastructure platforms with limited portability. Okay, so DAPR. Okay, so the distributed application runtime, known as DAPR, is pretty much an event-driven portable runtime that enables you to easily build resilient and scalable distributed applications, and as microservice, of course, on clouds and edge, and overcome common challenge while implementing distributed applications, such as, for example, recovering state after failures, managing secrets, or even discovering and calling securely other microservices. So pretty much using that, you can easily build microservice applications using any language, any framework, and run them anywhere. Okay, so this is a really big promising runtime, but see, as I used to say, there is no technology that is solution for everything. So this is just a way to give you more flexibility and freedom in the way that you build and manage your applications. So yeah. And one important detail is that, of course, DAPR is an open source project, so started by Microsoft, of course, and it's open for the contributions of all of us. So in case you want to follow the latest updates and to the official GitHub repository, so you can have a look to the link that is shared in the slides. And also November last year, DAPR became a cloud native computing foundation incubating project. So there are huge efforts and investments in DAPR currently to make it really successful and popular too. Okay, so just keeping a bit of so pretty much these slides, it's just to give you a quick of an introduction. Then don't worry, because during the demo you will see a lot of details and you will get it will help you get familiarized with DAPR. Okay, so there are many goals and advantage that DAPR is focused on. I will share just some of them with you. And I start, of course, by talking about the best practice, followed to provide the building blocks to enable us to easily build and run our applications using DAPR. Also, of course, it is designed to support any language or framework of your choice. So you can pick whatever language or whatever framework you need to use, or even sometimes in those scenarios that your team have knowledge in a specific language or framework, they can continue to apply that their knowledge in that framework and or language without the need to learn a new language or a new framework to deliver the application and the project. Of course, it also provides us a consistent, portable set of open APIs that enable our applications to interact with DAPR. And also DAPR is adopting, of course, standards to ensure consistency across all features and functionalities that it provides to us, okay? So to ensure that you build applications with a standard and a consistent way, okay? And we can leverage an extensive set of extensible and pluggable components to easily build additional functionality in your applications. This is one of the key things, in my opinion, personal opinion, about DAPR, because it definitely, especially if you have a background as a developer, you know how hard and challenging sometimes is the tasks about implementing integration between systems, you know. So sometimes it's really time consuming and it requires a lot of effort, especially in those scenarios that you have to perform conversions of data because both systems don't talk the same language, and you know what I mean. So it's it's a big challenge. So one of the promising features on DAPR is definitely this part of abstracting you from the integrations. Okay, so you have a lot of components out of the box available that enable you to easily build those integrations. It's pretty similar if you are familiar with Azure Functions. It's pretty similar with Azure Functions. As you know, you can create a function and then connect easily your function with a storage account or with Service Bus or even with the Cosmos DB and just put your code interacting with that service without any efforts, okay? With minimal efforts, I would say. And of course, sorry, this is just stop. Okay, so another important feature is definitely the fact that it's platform agnostic. So that means we can run DAPR and our applications in the cloud or edge, as I mentioned before, and pretty much that means you can run it everywhere. Okay, as long as you have a way to control the environment and initialize DAPR in that environment. Okay. And final one, of course, it's a community-driven project, vendor neutral. So that means you can even in the cloud run it anywhere you want, including AWS, Amazon, or a Google Cloud platform. So that means if your company is already tied to a specific cloud provider other than Microsoft, you can run DAPR there as well. Okay, if you need. So that means this is essentially to make DAPR accessible to everyone, okay, independently on the environment that you are using, independently on the language that you need to use, all of that. All right, so let's now talk about building blocks, okay? So a building block in DAPR is pretty much just an API accessible using the HTTP protocol or gRPC framework that is composed by, of course, one or more DAPR components, and the main goal is to provide capabilities to your applications, including those capabilities that I mentioned about implementing integrations with service. Okay, during the demo, you will see how you can leverage the existing building blocks and the existing components to implement those integrations. Okay, in an easy way, of course. So at the moment, DAPR provides you several building blocks, including blocks to enable you to perform secure service-to-service communications, because it's an important part, especially when you are working on distributed applications composed by hundreds or thousands of microservices. Also building blocks for state management. Again, it's important to store your data to enable you to, of course, implement stateless or even stateful applications. Blocks to implement PubSub or publish and subscribe applications. During the demo, you will see, because I'm going to use an example of a publish subscribe application, and of course blocks to provide observability of your microservice and more. So if you are familiar with distributed service and specifically on microservice scenario, you know that observability is another important factor, because many times you need to troubleshoot issues, you need to understand what's happening in your ecosystem, where the flows are going, and if you don't have useful tools for observability, that may be a big challenge. Okay, so this is another important feature as well. And of course, the most important thing is it's all about extensibility. So that means in case you just realize that none of those building blocks and components available fit your needs, that means you are not done. Okay, so that means you have another options. One of the options is definitely building your own custom components. So you can build your own custom components just following the standard defined, and that means then you are able to use those components in DAPR, and also you can always commit your components to the official GitHub repository and share with the rest of the community. So that means you can use it and the other people can use your components as well. Okay, and most importantly, if you follow those GitHub repos constantly, the community is contributing. A lot of people in the community is contributing constantly to those repos and to those components as well. And of course, as I mentioned previously, a building block is pretty much a set of one or more components providing a specific capability for your application. Okay, so a component, it's pretty much a modular piece of functionality providing an interface definition, and due to its pluggable nature, you can easily replace components in the building blocks and in your applications. We will see during the demo how easy it is to just replace an existing component that your application is using, replaced by another one. So that means in a normal scenario, if you just realize that you are using a service in your application, but you just realize that it's becoming an obsolete service and you need to replace by a more sophisticated service, you can easily do it by using the building blocks and the components. Okay, so so in terms of components, DAPR provides you an extensive set of components out of the box, as I mentioned before, including the state store components that represent data stores, okay, including, for example, database, files and memory to store your application's data. Okay, also you have components for service discovery to enable the service-to-service discovery and simplify communications between those between the microservices used by your application. And of course, in case you need to build custom logic into the request processing pipeline, you can leverage the middleware components available, so you can perform actions such as authentication, encryption, or even message transformation before the request is routed to your application, or even before the response is returned to the user, okay? And also you have several components available to help you build applications using the pub/sub pattern, which is the pattern that we are going to use today in the demo. So these components will manage the delivery and reception of all message created by your service and by your application, okay? And continuing, a big advantage of using DAPR is the fact that, of course, provides bindings to several external resources, including Azure Storage, Cosmos DB, Event Grids, and or Event Hub, Service Bus, SignalR, and much more. So all these bindings enable you to improve productivity because, as I mentioned before, if you are familiar with using Azure Functions to develop your applications, you know how fast it can be for you to just write a quick snippet, a short snippet of code and interact with it, with all these services that I mentioned before, okay? And of course, to ensure that you are building and using secure applications and any private information that you need to manage on your applications, including, as an example, connection strings and keys, you need to store them, of course, in secret stores instead of storing them in your application's configuration, which sometimes it happens, or storing them in your code hard-coded, which sometimes it happens as well. Luckily, nowadays we have scans to detect those scenarios. So, of course, you can leverage the components to manage secret stores and manage your private information as secrets in those stores. One common component to use is, of course, as you know, the Azure Key Vault. Okay, so quickly on Azure, talking about DAPR service. So DAPR use, of course, a set of service to support the runtime to and the provided features. Okay, so we start, of course, with the DAPR sidecar service. So the DAPR use a sidecar pattern, meaning that the DAPR APIs are run and exposed on a separate process. In this case, the sidecar process. And this process runs alongside your application, providing additional functionality to your application. So sidecars are supporting processes that are deployed with your application, providing an easy way for you to leverage DAPR's features and components to improve, of course, your application's functionality, okay? So, and of course, in scenarios that you are running DAPR in Kubernetes modes, you will have a pod running the DAPR operator service, and this service will manage pretty much the updates to DAPR components and also provides Kubernetes service endpoints for DAPR as well, okay? And in scenarios, of course, that you are using the actor pattern with your applications, DAPR use this placement service to calculate and distribute distributed hash tables for the location of those DAPR actors, okay? So this hash table pretty much maps actor IDs to pods and then, or process in this case, and then your application can use it to communicate with those actors, okay? So anytime your application activates a DAPR actor, the placement updates, of course, and manage the hash tables with the latest actors locations. So to help your applications to find the location of those actors, okay? And of course, in case your applications running on DAPR need to be secured, which typically it's a typical requirement. So then you have the DAPR Sentry service, which manage mutual TLS, also known as MTLS, between, of course, service and acts as a certificate authority, okay? So it generates MTLS certificates and distributes them to any to any running sidecars. Okay, so this allows to pretty much the sidecars to communicate with encrypted MTLS traffic. So in case you are not familiar with mutual TLS, this pretty much applies a two-way authentication when establishing the communication between client and server. So that means the client authenticates to the server and the server authenticates to the client. Okay, so it's a mutual authentication. And of course, when you are running DAPR in Kubernetes modes, a pod is created running the DAPR sidecar injector service, which looks for pods initialized with DAPR annotations, and then creates another container in that pod for the sidecar service. So anytime you create a pod with a service, then you have a sidecar that runs alongside your application, your service. Okay. So, sorry, just short break for a bit of water. Okay. So if you have any questions, please. We don't have moderator today. I'm moderator and speaker, but just drop in the chat, and I will be happy to answer those questions. So now I'm going to just provide you just a few examples on how to use the building blocks that DAPR provides to us. We have this example of a service invocation where I have my app running and preparing to call service A. Okay, so it starts by, of course, executing a post request to service A and method new order, sending a JSON payload, in this case with just a body containing the hello world message. Okay, this post request is using the service invocation API available in DAPR. Okay, by doing this, our app puts the burden of service discovery on the DAPR runtime. Okay, so the API will use the multicast DNS components, for service discovery. So it can get the address of the service A. Okay, so it doesn't need to care about storing address of the different service available in your system. Then, of course, as I mentioned before, a mutual TLS authentication is performed to ensure a secure connection between the APIs of the DAPR instance, running, of course, as sidecars and associated to the app and the service. Okay, after the successful established authentication, the request is forwarded to the service A API. Then the API, of course, forwards the request to the service so it can process the new order. Once the request is processed, the response is returned all the way back until reach our app. Okay, so besides going into detail of each step in this diagram, it's important to highlight that most of these tasks are abstracted from the applications and the IT pros using DAPR. So because DAPR manage all of these, the service discovery and establishing the secure communications for you out of the box. Okay, you don't need to care about anything about this. All right. So another example, in this example, it's just a state management call. And in this case, our app wants to persist some data into the data store, in this case, Redis cache. Okay, so it makes a request to the state API by providing the name of the DB. In this case, it's the corp DB, and providing a body with all key value pairs that we want to persist into that data store. Okay, and then DAPR instance gets the request and performs the operation to store the key value pair into, in this case, Redis cache instance being used. Okay, and one last example, which is really well, not similar, but in the same scope of our demo. So all the publishing and subscribing in this scenario, right? So you have an app that is publishing an event, and then you have two service subscribing. Okay, all this publishing is happening using Redis cache, and then once again, your app or the app makes a post request to the publish endpoint, and then providing, of course, the name of the PubSub component. In this scenario, it is orders, and the name of the topic, in this case, processed. And it contains just an example of a message, hello world, in the body. And then the request is processed by the DAPR API, which then executes the operation to send the message to the topic configured in Redis cache. And then, of course, Redis cache managed to notify the DAPR APIs subscribing to that given topic. So those APIs then call the service A and service B, providing the details of the message, okay? So on the demo, don't worry, I will show you more details about this scenario, because definitely the app that we are going to use is using the PubSub pattern, okay? Which is aligned with, in case you are not familiar with, an event-driven architecture, okay? So in case you want to build, for example, scenarios of building runtime applications that you want to reflect changes in runtime in your ecosystem, one way to do it is using the event-driven architecture pattern, okay? So let's just continue. It's time for demo. I see there is a quick question, so I'm going to try to answer quickly. Can we run it on a single machine, or does it require a cluster of minimum machines? No, Praveen, you can run it in a single machine. As an example, just quickly to show you, I'm running DAPR. I'm running DAPR using, in my machine, my local machine, using Docker desktop. Okay, so definitely you can run it on your local machine, or you can run it in a cluster if you have that requirement, okay, including Kubernetes cluster, or you can run it in other options, sometimes more simple options, which is I'm going to try to show today if I have time, but which one of them is Azure Container App, okay, which is another topic as well today. So let's proceed to the demo, okay. I'm going to just show you. In case you have any questions, feel free to just come up with the questions, okay? And I will try to answer. I'm going to just try to make it short to do not take too much time on the session. So the starting point, if you want to give it a try, it's dapr.io, okay? There is no big deal about this, okay? Honestly, I think you have enough information here to just give it a try, even if things don't work out. So for example, the first time I had contact with DAPR was maybe 2 years ago. And if you go to the GitHub repos, I opened some of the issues there on DAPR because some of the things were not working at that time. So if you have any issue, feel free to just go there and just open an issue and ask for support, okay? But definitely give it a try. It's worth to give it a try so you can get used to this. So on the menu, you have plenty of options here. The option we are going to focus is on docs, of course. On docs, you have plenty of documentation here on how to get started. Selecting the getting started, you have here all the information to how to install DAPR, okay, including all the steps that you need to follow in order to install DAPR. Pretty much just to simplify things, what I did in my scenario was I installed Docker desktop. I ensured Docker was running locally. I then installed DAPR CLI. Okay, you need to install it, and then once you install DAPR CLI, then you just need to initialize DAPR in your local machine. Okay, and that's it. You are done to you're ready to start building your apps using DAPR. Okay. So in this getting started, you also have DAPR quick starts, and you also have DAPR tutorials, okay? So we are going to use the DAPR tutorials today. On the DAPR tutorials, you have here a table with a lot of, I think the zoom, it's a bit, yeah, too much maybe. So on the DAPR tutorials, you have a huge list of tutorials available. The one that we are going to focus is the PubSub, okay? As I mentioned before. So on the PubSub, all right, so on the PubSub, what we have here, okay, the scenario is simple. So we have 3 applications, okay, built in different technologies to just show you the freedom that you have using DAPR, okay. So you have a web app using React, okay. You have a backgrounds app using Node and one background app using Python, okay? So, and what's happening is the React web app allows you to go to an interface and just send message to topics, okay? And then there is a Redis that's instance that is managing those topics and managing those subscriptions, okay? And then you have, of course, Node and Python subscribing to those topics, okay? So let's start by, I'm gonna share, yeah. So Visual Studio Code, let me just zoom out a bit because this may be too much. All right, so what we have here, we have 3 applications. As I mentioned before, we have React, Python, and Node, okay? One important thing, if you want to give it a try on this thing, the only thing you need to do is go back to dapr.io and then just clone this repo. That's pretty much what I did, and you have all the source code here available, okay? What I'm showing you, it's everything here in GitHub, okay? So we have Node, Python, and React, okay? What I want to start by showing you is, okay, if we go to Node app, okay, just abstract from the bit and byte, doesn't matter, okay? This Node app is using an Express API, but doesn't really matter these details, okay? What matters is you have a Node app which provides endpoints here, okay, and provides an endpoint for DAPR subscribe, okay? This endpoint enables DAPR runtime to understand what are the topics that you are subscribing, okay? And in this case, it's just returning a JSON payload with the name of the pub sub name, okay? So the name of the component that you are using, okay? And the topic and the routes, okay? And the same here for, in this case, for the topic B. So as you can see, Node is subscribing to topic A and B, okay? Then we have Python. And once again, one more time, DAPR subscribe, and then returns the topics, in this case, topic A and C, okay? One important detail I did not show you in the Node one, okay? But I can show you quickly. Once you subscribe to the topics, that means you need to provide endpoints for each one of the topics that you subscribe. So then DAPR knows how to call that endpoint to when receives an event, okay, for the topic that you are subscribing. So that means the Node app is subscribing to topic A and B. So that means you have here an endpoint for A and an endpoint for B. So that means when you send an event for the topic A, it will call this endpoint and will execute this code. And when you send an event to topic B, it will call this endpoint and will execute this code, okay? Same thing applies to, of course, Node, to Python, sorry. So again, subscribe and then A, and in this case, C, okay? Because Python is subscribing to A and C topics. So you have topics A, B, and C in this demo, okay? And then, of course, you have React, okay? React as a client. I'm not going into detail to show you the client, doesn't matter for this purpose. But if you want to explore this, I invite you to just clone the GitHub repo and have a look to the code. And then, of course, you have the server, okay? So on the server, all right, the server is what the client is calling when you just hit the button to send the event, okay, the message. And as you can see here, the server as an endpoint publish, which is calling the DAPR API, the publish API, to pretty much ask DAPR saying, okay, I want to send these events, okay? So that's it. And then DAPR by itself manage the subscribers and where to send to. Of course, not DAPR directly, but the components running in DAPR, you know, the components that you configure, okay? So talking about components, so this is pretty much the composition and the structure of the demo app that we are going to see today. Talking about components, let me just show you quickly. All right. So wait. So after you initialize DAPR on your local machine, if you go to your user folder, and then if you go to DAPR, there is a DAPR folder there, and inside that DAPR folder you have a subfolder called components. In those components, you will have out of the box 2 components configured. Okay, you have the state store, which is using Redis. Okay, in my scenario, it's running Redis locally. Okay, and it has a component pub/sub, which is using Redis as well. Okay, as it shows, remember, as it shows here in this diagram. Okay, so the pub/sub pattern is managed by Redis in this scenario. Okay, so I just want to show you this because anytime that you need to configure the components, you can go to this folder and configure the components. So now let me just show you enough of code. Let's see how you can run this. Okay, so I'm going to open here Windows Terminal. I have nodes. Okay, let me just clear this. I have nodes, I have Python tab, and I have React. Okay, I'm going to run each app on a different tab. Okay, to run this, you have all the details here. Okay, I can just show you quickly the details. So see, to run the nodes, you just do a cd to the nodes folder, and then just run an npm install to install all the package and dependencies of your application, and then you run a DAPR run command. Okay, this is using the DAPR CLI, and pretty much this command, what it's doing is pretty much saying, okay, I want to run this app. This is the ID of the app. This is the ports, and this is the command that I need to you to execute to run my application. In this case, nodes, and then the script for to run the application. Okay, the same applies to Python. Again, cd Python subscriber, then a pip install, or even you can run the Python commands with pip install inside, and then you install the package defined on the requirements .txt file. Okay, and then once again a DAPR run commands, which you provide the app ID and the app ports, and then the command to run your application, in this case Python, and then the script. Okay, and pretty much same thing, React form. Pretty much you just run in this case you are running a custom task on npm. On the package.json file, there is a custom task build client that pretty much runs all the commands required to build the client, and then npm install to install the dependencies and package, and then adapt run once again ID, port, and then the command to run the application. That's pretty simple. Okay, so let me just show you here. I would say the best thing is give it a try by yourself locally, and you should be fine too. You will see that it's not complicated, even if it looks like complicated. Okay, so on the commands, pretty much I'm just going to run the command that was there in the tutorial. So in this case, I'm running the node app, and as you can see here, it's up and running. Okay. Then Python app, once again, same thing, providing the ID and the port and the command to run the app, up and running. Okay, and then React. Okay, once again, so run the DAPR run commands, and then providing the ID, port, and the command to run the app. Okay, so I have the three of the apps running. Okay, and this one is our web app, which is using React and listening on port 8080. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, let's go back to the browser. I'm going to port 8088, okay, and I have here the app running. Okay, so let me just zoom out a bit because this is a really big. All right, so I'm going to also inspect the network to ensure everything is good. Okay, so what I'm going to select is okay, I'm going to select topic A, and I'm going to say just a message, hello nodes and Python. Okay, so I just hit submit. Remember, Node and Python are subscribing to topic A, so I expect both to receive the message. Let me just double check here network. As you can see here, the network called the publish endpoints on the server sides, as I showed you before. And if I go back to my terminal, sorry. So on the React, you can see that there is a message here saying, okay, I'm going to publish this message. On the nodes, it's pretty much just printed the message that's received. And on Python, it printed the message as well. Okay, so now let's go back and let's say, okay, instead of topic A, I'm going to just I just want to say hello to Python. So hello Python. Once again, checking the network, all good, 200 status, and as you can see here, React B, so confirm that publish the message. Python confirmed, well, sorry, not Python. Python is not subscribing to topic B. Actually, Node is subscribing to topic B. So as you can see, Node is receiving the message. Now let's go do the opposite. So in this case, topic C, and now it's hello Python, but I'm going to say hello Python C, okay, just to differentiate a bit the message. So once again, I go back. As you can see here, the Node app did not receive the events and the message because it's not subscribing to topic C. Python received the message and React confirmed the publishing of the message, okay? So again, going back to the diagram, don't worry so much about the code, okay? The main point of this session is pretty much just, as I mentioned, create awareness and explain you how easy it is to start to use this. Now imagine, okay? Imagine that you have the scenario of, okay, I'm using Redis cache, but I really don't want to use Redis cache, okay? I want to use something more enterprise level, okay? I want to use something that I can potentially have duplication detection, have ensured at most one delivery, and pretty much other features, including locking and this kind of stuff. So let's say that, let me just bring the browser here, one sec. All right. So let's say that you want to replace Redis with Service Bus, okay? So what I'm going to show you here quickly is, okay, I have, this is Azure Portal, as you know, right? So what I did was I just created this DAPR demo bus, okay, which is a service bus namespace, okay? I will not go into details about service bus, but this is pretty much one of the messaging service that you have available on Azure. And the plan is, instead of using Redis cache, let's instead of using Redis, let's use service bus topic, okay? Topics in this case, because we are using 3 topics. Perfect. So the first thing we need to do is we go back to the documentation and we just say, I'm going to just open a new tab here. And I just say, okay, I'm going to the docs. Let me just see. I see a few more messages there. I will go in a minute to respond the message. So on the docs, we have here a reference option, and then we have here component specs, okay? On the component specs, you have, one of the things you have is the pub sub broker component specs. And in here, you have the full list of the pub sub components that you can use. And you can see you have components for Google Cloud Platform, Amazon Web Service, and so on, okay? So this is the beauty of this runtime. It's extendable, you know? So that means you can extend this as much as you need, all right? And as you can see, there are components to support Azure Service as well, including Azure Service Bus. So I start by just opening, all right, opening this, and this page show me the spec of the components, okay? So this allows you to easily create a component. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this spec. I'm going to my folder of the components, and I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it servicebus.yaml, all right? And I'm going to just paste the spec that I just copied before in the DAPR site, okay? So one of the things that you can see here, it's required is, of course, the connection string. So I go back to my service bus namespace, and I'm going to shared access policies. By default, when you create your service bus namespace, you have a root manage the policy created and available out of the box. And I'm going to copy my connection string, okay? So once again, I just replace this. I have my connection string and I have my components ready. Okay, so now see one important detail on the metadata. You have a property called name, which is the name of the components. It allows you to identify uniquely each one of the components that you have available there and running in your environment. Okay, so now let's say that, okay, I want to start to use this component. What should I do? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going back to the code. Okay, and on the subscribers and on the React form, I'm going to enable this app to change this app to use these new components. One important note, okay, because I know that when I started this conversation, I promised about showing you how to do this replacement without no code change. Okay, unfortunately, see, this is a simplified demo, and the code, of course, has all these configurations hard coded. Okay, but in a production scenario, of course, well, in an alternative scenario, you could map those configurations outside. Okay, so outside of your applications and outside of your code. So that means if you need to replace one component by other, you could go somewhere else outside of your apps and change it without the need to change the code, deploy your apps, the new version of your app, and so on. Okay, so you could use, as an example, a simplified example is you could use table storage and map all the configuration there, and then have your application pulling from table storage the configurations and using the configurations. Okay, for the purpose of this demo, it is using the configuration here in the code. So what I'm going to do is this pub sub name, as I mentioned, is identifying the component to use for the pub sub pattern. I'm going to change this name, okay, to service bus pub sub. This is the nodes, then the Python. Okay, again, same thing. So I'm going to the pub sub name and change it to service bus pub sub, and the same thing to React. Okay, once again, server file, and sorry, here, pub sub name, and change it. Okay, so now I changed my app, right? So now I expect the app to start using this service bus namespace. Okay, if I go here to the topics under the entities, you can see I have no topic here. Okay, I have nothing configured. So now let's run our application again. Okay, so I'm just going to close this, stop and close. All right, and stop and close. All right, so once again, I'm just going to run the app. Okay, I'm just going to run the app. Okay, and I'm just going to run the app. All right, well, potential, no, it's fine. All right, it's fine. So it's everything running. So I should be able to go here to the browser. Once again, localhost port 8080. Just refresh. Okay, I'm going to just clear here the network to ensure everything is working fine, and just do a. Let me just try to minimize this a bit. Yeah, all good. So now I can say hello nodes and Python using SP, okay, to the topic A. So both are subscribing. As you can see, it sent to the message to with 200 status code to the publisher API. If I go back to React, it confirmed that published the message. If I go back to Python, it received the message. If I go back to nodes, it received the message. Okay, so now let's go back to our service bus and see this here. So DAPR, once you enabled the components, DAPR was able to create the topics and even create the subscriptions. Okay, so if you navigate to one of the topics, you will see the subscribers here. This is the app ID that you are providing on the DAPR run command when you run your app. Okay, so you can see how easy it is to just replace these components. Okay, now quickly, I'm going to try to make it in 5 minutes to just show you quickly. So one of I believe that you are familiar with with Azure Container Apps. If not, I would definitely invite you to, as you can see here, the graph showing the request and also the message that's received. So I would invite you to have a look to Azure Container Apps, because it's really a promising service to just enable you to run containerized apps in a simpler way. So you don't need to all the time run. If you need to run an app, your app in a container, you don't necessarily need to run all the time Kubernetes and manage a complex infrastructure to host your app. You can use simplified options as an example, Azure Container Apps. Okay, so let me just try to show you quickly, because I definitely want to show you this. So one sec, just prepping here stuff to show you this. So what I'm gonna do is for this, what I'm gonna do is I want to. So now see, in a normal scenario, I have my app. I tested locally. It's all good. It's up and it's running. I like it. All good. So now I need to host it, right? I imagine that you want to host it on Azure. Okay, let's run it on Azure Container Apps. Okay, so let's try to service bus here. All right. So one sec. So what I'm gonna do is just show you quickly what I have. So to show you how you can start to use, there is a tutorial. I will share the link with you, so you can also give it a try using DAPR on Azure Container Apps. Okay, don't worry so much if you don't get everything. And also this session is getting recorded, so you can go back and forward later. The important part is you have container apps, and as you know, container apps relies on containerized apps. So containerized apps means you need to create containers, and to create your container, you need an image, right? So you need to create an image of your app. Then with that image, you can use to create a container, and then you can run your containers. Of course, one option is Azure Container Apps. Okay, so of course, Azure Container Apps relies on a registry. Okay, you can use multiple options. For the purpose of this demo, I'm using Container Registry. Okay, Azure Container Registry. So on the Azure Container Registry, let me just show you quickly. All right, so on the Azure Container Registry, we have here repositories, and on the repositories, I have already the repositories created for the 3 apps. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the process of building an image, then publishing the image to the ACR, okay, and then to the Azure Container Registry, sorry, and then run the commands to create the container apps to run each one of our containers. So each application that we are running, which is 3, maps to one container. So we are going to run a container for Nodes, one for Python, and one for React. Okay, so to make it quick, I'm going back to Visual Studio Code. All right, so now 1 second. All right, so I'm going to show you the example of doing this process using the React app. One important detail, okay? If you want to give it a try by yourself, you should be able to do it, all of this, because you have also Docker files, you have everything you need to do this, okay? Everything I'm doing here, you have everything there in the GitHub repo, okay? So I'm going to start by going to the React form, okay, which is the folder that contains my React app. Then the first step is, of course, as I mentioned, you need to build an image, right? So that means I need to run the command docker build, okay? And what I'm doing here is I'm providing a tag, which is DAPR demo React, and then version 1, and then a dot for to use the Docker file located in my current directory, okay? So you just run the command to build the image. Remember, to run these commands, you need to have Docker running locally, okay? So that's an important fact. So pretty much what you did is you just build the image locally, okay? So if you go to Docker image, you should be able to see your image here that you just built, okay? In this case, we can see a DAPR demo React, okay? So now what I'm gonna do is once you build your image, you need to tag it, okay? So once again, you are going to tag your image to be able to create a tagged version using, in this case, the address of your Azure Container Registry, okay? Because I want to push that image to my Azure Container Registry, okay? So I just run the tag commands to just tag my local image to the image that I'm gonna send to the Azure Container Registry. And then, of course, you need to, before you send and interact with Azure Container Registry, you need to log in, okay? One way for you to do it is, of course, you can use Azure CLI commands. And in this case, you can use the ACR for Azure Container Registry, and then the operation of login. And then you just specify the name of the Azure Container Registry, okay? You just hit enter. Hopefully it will work. Let's see. I think 5 minutes more and we are done. And now the next command is, of course, so you logged into your Azure Container Registry. Now you need to push your image from your local environment to the Azure Container Registry, okay? So again, Docker push, and then you specify the tag that you just used previously of your image, okay? So once again, you are just pushing the image to the Azure Container Registry, okay? So once the push is done, now the next step is, of course, you can always come here. I'm just skipping a bit of steps to do not overrun too much, but you can always come here to your container registry and check your repository and see if you have the version of your image and everything here, all good, okay? So once you have the image there, now the step is to create your Azure Container Apps, okay? So let me just do one thing. Let me just do here one thing to ensure that I'm using the correct. I'm not showing the command here because I don't want to expose the details of my account. Okay, fair enough. I just ran Azure AZ account show. Okay, if you run this command, you will be able to see the details of the account that you are using. Okay, it's important. AZ account show. Okay, it's important in scenarios that you have multiple Azure accounts. You need to use these commands before doing the operations to ensure that you are using the correct account, okay, and the correct subscription on Azure. So yeah, running. I'm just going to stop this, and this doesn't worry anymore. We are not going to run this locally. All right. Before creating this now, the Azure Container App, what I'm going to do is, one thing that I cannot forget is service bus namespace. All right. So I'm going back here to the topics, and I'm going to just delete these topics once again, okay? Okay, this deleted. All right, this is deleted. Almost there. We are almost there, I promise. I'm just sharing this with you because definitely it's something really really hot topic, you know. So I'm just going to create the topics as well manually, just quickly, to show you how easy it is as well for you to create the topics in case you need. Just A, B. I'm just using the default values, doesn't matter for this demo, okay? So don't worry so much about this about these values, okay, for the matter of this demo. The most important thing, as you can see, is subscription count is 0, okay? So if you navigate to one of the topics, you don't have any subscription there, okay? This is showing graphs because the topics are the same, so this is actually a bug on the service, in my opinion. But anyway, since you are using the same name of the topics, it's picking the previous telemetry, okay? Besides the fact that you deleted the previous one, okay? All right, so you have the topics created. So now let's go back to the Visual Studio Code. And what I'm going to do now is create the Azure Container Apps, okay? I'm going to just explain you quickly the commands, okay? It's not big deal, okay? All these commands are there in the tutorial that I'm going to share. The most important thing is this is using Azure CLI, by the way, okay? So AZ again, container app, okay, because it's the domain, and then operation creates. Then you provide the name of the app, you provide the resource group, you provide an environment, okay? So Azure Container Apps rely on an environment. So before I create my apps, I had to create an environment, and I had to upload using Azure CLI. I had to upload my components, so my service bus component that I just created locally, okay? This is important that you do that because you need to configure the component there so that runtime running on Azure Container Apps can pick the component and make it work. Then you just specify the name of the environment, you specify the image that you just created, and it's available on your Azure Container Registry. You specify the details of the registry server, the registry username, and the password to use. And then optionally, you can specify min replicas, max replicas in scenarios that you have scalability. And most importantly, you specify the tag to enable DAPR, okay? And then once again, DAPR port and DAPR ID as you used in your DAPR commands when you run DAPR locally. It's exactly the same here, okay? So just hit enter, hopefully it will work. To be fair, to be honest with you, I did not have too much time to prepare this part. I just decided to introduce something new to the demo to make it even a bit more exciting. And as you know, Azure Container Apps is currently in preview mode, so a lot of things are new. So it's everything good apparently. So I'm going to just clear this. Now I'm just going to run the same commands for so I created my Node, my Python app. I'm going to create the same thing for Node. As you can see, same things. So pretty much the same thing. So name of the app, resource group, environment, image. The image is different, of course, it's the image for the Node app. Then details of the registry server, and then details of the DAPR app, including the port and the ID. Once again, run the command. And the third one, okay, all good. And of course, our React app, okay. One important detail is the difference here is our React app is a web app, so it needs ingress configured, okay, to be publicly available, okay, from the external. So that means you need to configure this flag for ingress and external, okay. So everything else is pretty much the same things, the same parameters, just change the values for the purpose of your app. So let's just run this, and hopefully this will work. So in my scenario, I need to stop my, oh, I don't have here. All right, so let me just see if my antivirus, because definitely I need to stop my antivirus. Let me just see if I can see this running here. I don't see the antivirus. Let's see. Let's see if this blocks or not. Hopefully not. All right, so if I go back to my resource group, if I just refresh this, as you can understand, as you can understand, and as you can see here, now I have my 3 apps, okay? So I have my Node app, my Python app, and my React app, all running well, okay? So if I just go to my React app, So if I just open here this, hopefully it will not block. Maybe it will block. Yeah, I just forgot about the antivirus. One sec, because this is messing up on my site. Let me just try to quickly kill this and show you. Otherwise, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to do something dynamic anyway. Yeah. Jesus. Okay, let's see. Hopefully it will kill antivirus. No, it's not killing. All right, so do me a favor, okay? Can you please just try to see if you are able to open that link on your site? And just just start to send message anyway. Yeah, definitely the antivirus is breaking my demo. Okay, did it work? All right, perfect. Were you able to see the same interface of React app? Can you please confirm on chat, please? Did it work? Can you confirm, please? All good. All right, perfect. So if I just refresh this, okay, you can see here subscription count, okay, 211 once again. And once again, as you can see here, all right, I have here all the telemetry about the message sent and so on. And now let's say, okay, when I was running my apps locally, I had access to the console and all the output and so on. In here, one way that you can track your app is pretty much on the container app. Hello, one sec. You just open the container app. Well, okay, the menu is here. So you have your logs, okay? And in the logs, I'm just going to use here a pre-built query that I have here because the query doesn't really matter, okay? So I just run my query on the container app console logs table to just give me the logs. And I can see here, all right? I can see here some message. So can you just send anything there different just to be sure and show you this working? This is showing 7:12 p.m. because it's UTC time. Okay. By the way, because sometimes we miss that fact that is UTC time. So let's see if any message are coming. Anyone sending message? I really can't. I really can't use the URL. Super message. See here, we received this super message, and definitely, and most importantly, as you can see here, React app published the message, and Python app received the message, and of course, Node app received the message as well. Okay, so this is just a simple way to show you how to deal with these things, So as you can see here. So all good. And with that, of course, just to share with you quickly, I'm sorry for the delay. So a few resources for you, including a tutorial. Take a screenshot if you want to give it a try. I would definitely give it a try. Most importantly, don't focus on bit and byte. Doesn't matter the bit and byte and the code. It matters more to understand the model of the how the application works. And as I explained to you before, even if you are not a developer, if you are an architect, you need to understand these things. You need to understand how these tools are valuable for you to use as a technology in your solutions, in your company and in your environments, and also as IT ops. You need to understand as well how you can maintain and monitor those applications as well. So given that, yeah, that's pretty much it. If you want to connect, feel free to just reach out to me on Twitter, or also you have my blog where you can find all the links there as well. So ping me if you have any question or if you need any help. I'm happy to help. And that's pretty much it from my side. I will just try to see any questions. All right, so Chandra, unfortunately, I have no time to show you on how to run this on DAPR on AKS, but I invite you, you have here the documentation, okay? So getting started, tutorials, you should have here tutorials on Kubernetes, okay? See here, Hello Roads Kubernetes. This shows you how to run DAP in Kubernetes. So it should be fine to just follow the steps and you should be able to do it. Okay, latency for applications with a lot of events such as IoT or stock applications. Praveen, latency, see, remember, this is following the principles of microservice apps. So that means you can scale as much as you need, okay? So that means you can pretty much just establish an event-driven architecture and then just use your scalability and your microservice to consume your events and process your events, okay? So you can have as many as microservice you need to run, as you know, okay? So it should be fine. All right. So given that, all right, all good. So given that, I'm gonna finish. Okay. Thank you so much for your presence here. Thank you. I see some family face, including Andrew, Gonzalo, and Sotiris, of course. Thank you so much for joining, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. So last question, Gabor, can this work with multiple clusters seamlessly, or does it require a pre-configured federated service mesh? You can see, don't, so besides the fact that DAPR uses the service a sidecar pattern, it's different from service mesh, but you can mix both, okay? DAPR and service mesh. So if you just Google service mesh, if you just Google, you will see oh my God. So you will see here this here. Sorry, actually, this tutorial explaining how you can use DAPR and service mesh, okay, together. All right, so you can definitely use service mesh and DAPR together, because the service mesh acts at infrastructure layer, as you know, and DAPR as the sidecar pattern acting more at application level, okay, which enables you to have different levels of control, if you know what I mean. So once again, thank you so much, everyone. Wish you a great evening, a great day, and ping me if you need anything. And thank you once again. Thank you so much. Have a great day, okay? If you don't have any more questions, there is a delay on the stream. All right, all good. Okay, thank you so much, guys. Have a good day. Thank you. Thank you.